Hello? Can everyone hear me? Sorry, I just had a lot of issues with like my camera. Yep, like Andrea said, make sure you have access to reference photo we sent. Okay. Just zoom it in a little bit more. That's good. Okay. So for those who don't, I have the photo here, but it's very small, so might not be as clear. I'm just gonna maybe. Yeah, it's pretty small, so it might not be as clear, but this is the reference photo we'll be using. Yeah, so first things first, what I like to do when you're like drawing still life, when you're drawing, inanimate objects, you want to first draw like a small sketch. So you can either do this on the paper you have or on a scrap piece of paper. So you can draw like a little sketch here. So let's say we do it here. So let's do it like, first you draw a little rectangle. And that's supposed to be this piece of paper you have here. I don't know if everyone can see, but if you can't see this rectangle, I'll do it right here. So let's draw a rectangle. All right, a rectangle. And then you look at your picture, your reference photo. We have four main objects. We have the pear, an apple, and I'm gonna say it's the second apple, and grapes. So we learned gesture drawing last week and how certain shapes or certain body parts can show an angle or show direction. So for example, we can like kind of do like the mini gesture drawing for this. So up here, it looks like it's going straight, like up and down. So it looks like it's standing upright. So it's gonna be like this. For the apple, we have it slightly tilted. You see like it's like the middle of the apple where the stem is, it's slightly tilted. So the line for this would be kind of like at an angle. And then for the second apple, we see this kind of center mark here. So it's kind of like lying on its side. So the line for this would be something like this. Right, everyone can see the general direction. Again, I'm going to repeat this. The pear standing like this, apple like this, and the second apple, let's call it something else. Let's call it a lemon, like this, right? And then the grapes, obviously we can do it later because it shows like a multiple kind of like layers. So we can always do that later. Okay. So first thing you want to do in your little sketch thing, we want to split the paper in half. So find the midpoint of the top piece, put that in half. Find the midpoint of the sides. So right here, split in half. As you can see, I already did the splitting in half for the reference photo. And everyone, if you have your own reference photo on your laptop, you can also, visually split the photo into fours. Okay, and so we see on this side we have mostly the apple, right? And then we see on this side it's the lemon, and this one the pear, this one mostly the grape, and some part of this. So when we split this in half, we see that some part of the apple goes it goes over this line here. I don't know if you see this part. It goes over the line here. So we want to set like boundaries or like the general area where the apple is. So let's say it goes a little bit over. So it means that you want to put your apple right here, the right side of the apple right here. And then you just want to get an approximate of where this is, like with the left side apple. So let's say it's like right here. Maybe even like smaller right here. Obviously these aren't perfect, they're just like guidelines. And then you have the top of the apple. So since the middle of it's right here, the top of the apple goes a little over the top. So you want your apple right here. So it goes a little over the top. So right now we have a general rectangle. I'm trying to general rectangle for where the apple should be. And then we can do the same thing for the other objects. So you have the pear, it's a little bit over where the left side of the apple is, so the pear can stop here. The top, it's like approximate right here, approximately right here, so maybe it's like right here on the top. The left side of the apple, the right side of the pear, it's almost at the right, like where the middle of the apple is. You can say the middle of the apple's here. And you can just say the boundary for the right side of the pear is right here on top. And then of course you can make another rectangle. And you do the same for obviously the lemon, right? So it's the bottom side of the lemon is a little bit above the bottom side of the apple, so it should be right here. But you know that it's connected, or like the apple's blocking it, so these rectangles should be connected. It's the top of the lemon is almost the same height as the top of the apple, so you can just kind of extend it. And so you can just do approximately for the right side, and we have these, 3 rectangles of where these shapes will be drawn. So obviously you can just fill it in, making sure it doesn't have to be the correct shape. Like a circle right here, and another circle lying like this right here. And then obviously you can draw the grapes later. So, you have a general shape of where everything is. So you do it in the bigger, I guess, area, right? So again, you put your paper into fourths or quarters. The midpoint of this right here. Obviously my paper is kind of blocked by this, so I'll just be doing it like this. So, but if you have your whole paper, you should have it, the whole thing. My paper is blocked, so I'll just be doing it like this. All right, so this is where my drawing would be. And splitting your paper into 4 equal parts. It doesn't have to be obviously like exactly equal, but like on the same thing. Okay, and we do this again, right? First we find, we already know where like the position of the fruits are, so you can just start drawing your rectangles or your boundaries for your fruit is. So you can do like, let's do the pear first, or you can do the apple first. So again, the apple is a little over the middle, the right side of the apple, so you can make your boundary there. And also you should be doing all these, light lines because they're guidelines. Left of the apple, it's almost at the center of this point, so right side of the apple could be here. Bottom of the apple, like this. Top of the apple, a little over. Obviously, you can always correct these if you think they're wrong. Okay, and then the pear, we have like something right here. Let's say it starts there, and then a little bit over, so right here. And the right side of the pear is obviously not touching this middle line, so you want it something like this right here. So we have a rectangle for the pear, it should be a long rectangle, and the rectangle for the apple. You also have the lemon. I'm gonna make these darker, but obviously you should not make it darker on your paper because these should be erased. Have the lemon, so we have the bottom of the lemon slightly right here. top 11 almost the same height as the apple, but maybe looks like it's a little bit above. So, you know, it's around the same height or where the top is. And the left side like this. Maybe like across here. Obviously, you see how I'm doing several lines. If you feel like your line is too short or it's not at the right place, you can always erase it. That's why you want light lines. So like this, other shape. All right, and then we can start doing the shapes. So the pear, you see, obviously since it's farther away, it looks, the top looks much smaller, even though the top is kind of circular, it looks much smaller than what the apple is. So you want to consider that the top of the pear is smaller and then it gets like thicker or bigger in the end. So it's kind of like an hourglass shape. So you want to draw this top here and consider that it's smaller at the top. And then bigger at the end. You also can go over your boundary lines. It's like the general, we have a general shape. I'm gonna make this darker. Y'all can't see that. We have the general shape of the pear. All right, and maybe if you can, you do like a little thing here, and then draw the stem. Yeah, something like that. You can draw the stem. Okay, and then let's do the apple, since that, it's the main thing you see. So the apple, you want to draw, like, remember how we did kind of like the gesture drawing of the apple? So the apple kind of tilts, so it's gonna be like this, kind of, right? So you can start from the center here to draw the apple. So that's something like, and if you can see, it's kind of like a heart shape, as in like it gets smaller, or it's like when you curve, it's tighter at the end. So I think this is too, I made the box too big. Obviously, if you think that the shade doesn't look right, you can always like go back to like see your picture from a distance. Yeah, we have a general circular shape for the apple. And then for the lemon, so it's lying like on its side. So you have this kind of general, it's not gesture, but like how the object is. So it's like lying, so it's gonna be a straight line. So it's gonna be like this. And there's like a little dent at the end. So you have the general shapes of your drawing. So you might want to erase your rectangles and we can go on the details. And obviously, you can draw like the general shape of the grapes. So like a lot of times when people see like when people try to draw an image, you try to directly copy how many objects or how many grapes there are in a picture. Obviously, you don't need to do that because it's not really clear. So as long as you have like the general shape or like the general, I guess, amount, like an approximate amount of how many grapes there are, that's fine. So you just draw like. Well, like the grapes start here and kind of like stop in this direction. So you just gotta draw, grapes within this area. They're just circles or ovals. They don't have to be the exact amount of yes, grapes there are. You can have more, and obviously varying sizes of your ovals. I don't know if you can see that. I'll just make it darker. Okay, yeah. So then we can start with shading. So you notice that, or like since shading or like the detail. So obviously you gotta finish this. This apple, the stem is right here. We have this little, I don't know what this is, but it's saying it's like right here, center. All right, so you notice that the highlight, or yeah, the lightest part of the apple is here. See, it's like directly, it's not green like the other part, and it's light here. You also see the lightest part of the lemon is here. And I don't know if you can see this clearly in this picture. Maybe you can try your reference photo, but the lightest part of the pear is this area. So that gives us, I guess, an idea of where the light source is coming from. So the light source is obviously like coming from this direction, like this. It's hitting like this, right? It's hitting the fruits like this. So the shadows, as everyone would say, it's going to go in the this direction. So the shadow is going like this, and then the light source is hitting right here, this area. And obviously you can see like the lights part, the highlights for the light part of the grape. That also is another indicator of where the light source is. So you can either, put that or like have that, so you made like a lighter circle that shows where your light areas are. Your light areas of this. Like a general area of where your light areas are. I'm gonna fix this out a little bit. Yeah. Always you can move your painting back and look back to see whether or not Okay, so let's start with the shading for the pear, since in the background it's like most like the easiest. So how I mostly do shading is wherever like I kind of follow, I don't know like the exact term, but like we can use the term like gesture of the shape, or like how the shape goes. So since the pear is just sitting straight up, right? Sorry, like lying, not lying, it's like just when you place an object, it's just horizontal, or sorry, vertical to this horizontal, like this line we drew, right? So the shading is gonna like mimic how the object is standing, or that's a good way to put it. So you can start with shading, just a general shading like this. Just shading the whole thing, just mimicking. I guess it's like almost like the contour, like it's almost like contour lines. just mimicking, you know, how the object is shaped and how the object is standing. So obviously you can do a lighter shade where the light source is. You can always use an eraser to go back to erase the part to make the highlight. So you have a general shading of the pear. General shading. And then you want to see where the darkest part is. So you know the lightest part is here. The darkest part is this area because the light source is not hitting this area. So, you know, can start, you know, shading this part. Be the darker part. And you can either follow the shape, like make contour lines, follow the shape of this pear, and then continue shading this part because it's the darkest part. And like we taught you in other classes, this idea of like a gradient. So, you know, this doesn't automatically go from light to dark. There's this middle kind of shade or middle color. So you want to include that as well. So this middle dark, and then you want to you also see that although it's light here, this part is dark because it's going to be blocked by the grape, or it's the grape. So you know that this part of the shape, so the pear is dark as well. I mean, you see the top of the pear is dark as well. I don't know if you see it's clear here, but it's because there's a stem. So the stem is kind of like blocking some of the light here. So this part of the thing is dark, the pear is dark. And we also have this middle indent where the stem is, that's also dark as well, but we can always put that in teacher later. So that's what you want to continue doing. You want to make sure that your pear is darkest on this side, and then there's like kind of a gradient. Obviously, if you think, you know, you don't really like how this is done or how it's too grainy, use your tissue, Q-tip, whatever you can, kind of blend it out and see. You can always start over with new lines. You obviously see how it's like this part is much darker, so you want to fix that. So you want to include to be darker here, lighter. And this part would be the darkest because you can see in this picture, it's directly hitting it. Sorry.
Stephy, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. There's a lot of background noise, but everyone can just like continue shading the peer of what I taught you. All right, so it's the darker side, and then, you know, gradient as well to this. Okay. Sorry, it was just a lot of background noise. So obviously where this part, where the apple is kind of blocking the pear, that part's gonna be dark as well because we see the apple is, you know, directly blocking some part of the pear, so it doesn't get any light. You want to color that part dark as well. And, you know, transitioning. Obviously you can perfect this later, but we're kind of running out of time, so I'm gonna do the other shapes as well. You see, let's say for the stem, we have this part is really dark, and then this part that's like facing, that's closest to the right, that right part of the right side, right part of the stem. It's a little bit lighter because the sun is hitting that part. So we have, this part of the stem that is dark. And we have this part of this stem that is lighter. And this kind of circular motion here, that's also dark. Sorry, that's also light as well. So you can also use an eraser. Oops. Wait, sorry, did my screen freeze?
Yeah, the screen is frozen.
Oh, sorry, there's technology issues, my bad. All right, but yeah, everyone can kind of like continue that idea of the thing. And we do the same for the other, what is it called? The other,
Your phone disconnected, Stephy.
it's disconnected. Oh, my bad. Uh-oh. Okay. We just sign into the meeting again. But everyone can start shading the other fruits. So just shade it with that light light gray color. And then we'll go over it again. So for both fruits. Okay. I think I should be connected again. Give me a second. Dre, can you make the Steffi's drawing as the spotlight, or make it? I don't know how to. Okay. Thank you. Can everyone see again? I think everyone can see. Okay. So again, shade these shapes with a light gray color. You want to shade in kind of the direction of where the apple is facing. So it's going to be facing, if the angle of the apple is like this, so you want to shade in kind of that general area or that general angle. The lemon is doing like this, so you want to shade kind of down towards. Okay. All right, so the apple, we obviously know the highlight is this area right here. We just got to find the other part. So the darkest area of the apple is this side, right? The one that's not facing the sun. So it's going to be like this. It's the dark side of the apple. Obviously, the bottom part is the darkest, because that's where the shadow is. You draw just like a slight shadow area thing. Okay, so then you want to shade again. You want to shade this apple. You can use contour lines like this, or you can just shade in the general shape of the apple. So this part would be, you might want to, if you can't see like the outline of the apple, you might want to use your pencil to go over it. Okay, and you just shade this darkest side. It's almost like shading an apple is almost like shading a sphere. Like it's supposed to look very circular. So you have this part. So, this part is the darkest part since it hits the ground. And that's where it hits kind of like the darkest part of the shadow. So the darkest part of the shadow will reflect kind of like onto the bottom of the apple. So that's why it's the darkest. And you want to also make sure you have that gradient. So always kind of following like this shape, like these contour lines. That's, you know, the general shape of the apple. We also have this part of the apple is dark as well because it's at the bottom, so the light doesn't even touch this. So. And then for this, so not only does the apple like go in this direction, but it also does this, right? Because it's round all around the shape. So in the bottom, you might want to change it up and include these contour lines like that. Perhaps you can shade it in. And then it's the shape of your apple. So I'm sorry if like the apple is kind of weird because it's in a very weird angle. My phone is being, oh, this thing is being shot up my phone, so it looks kind of weird, but I can send a picture of when the piece is done. And you know, you'll have shading like this. And this part is the smallest part of the apple. And if you think this is too, this part of the apple is too kind of circular, you can always erase it. And change the shape, and then this empty part you can add grapes, or you can just color it dark because it's dark in the picture and you can't really see, you know, what's between a lot of the objects. It's usually blocked. So again, this part we do the dark, and then you want to add that gradient. You can use your Q-tip if you want to shade. I prefer tissues, but I guess Q-tips is the only thing I have around the house right now. So yeah, using both is fine. Just remember, you can't just like leave it like this. You have to go over it because it looks very smudged. So you want to go over it like this, making sure. Yeah, if you feel that this part is too light, you can always shade it a little bit more. On this crevice thing. And using Q-tip or your tissues, doesn't matter. You see, you still have that general like kind of highlight right there. Obviously, you know, this is not done, but we can always fix it up later. We just want to kind of like the general idea of like where the darkest part of the apple is, where the lightest part of the apple is, or where the lightest part of the pear is. Okay, now we can do the lemon. It's similar idea. So if you feel like the outline of the lemon is too dark or too light, you can outline it again. Remember here, the lemon kind of goes in a bit. Okay. Actually, let me just erase this part because the lemon kind of is off. By the apple. So this part of the lemon is actually smaller, so it goes a higher incline. So you can always erase that part. And That's why it's like always good to have soft lines so you can erase if you feel like the shape is wrong. So that's the general shape. Trying to see. Yeah. So we have the darkest part of the lemon here because that's where the shadow is. So we have the shadow like this. And then we have the lightest part here. We already drew this kind of shape. We also have, I don't know if this picture is really clear, but this part of the lemon, the top part of the lemon is really dark as well because it's directly touching the grapes, and the grapes are kind of blocking some of the light. So we also have this part right here that is dark because the apple is blocking the lemon. And obviously this general right side is pretty light because the sun is hitting directly here, or the light source. So we can start by, again, shading lemon, a general light gray color, even the highlight part. Some people like to do like after this, some people like to use their Q-tip or tissue, just like go over it. So they have this like, general kind of smooth gray kind of color or shade around the whole fruit. Now it's much easier for them to see which part is darker, which part is lighter. Oops, forgot this part. Right. So again, you always want to fix whatever there's marked away. Okay. So we have this part is the darkest part. So you can start from here. So the lemon, it's like the contour lines for lemon is going to look kind of similar to the apple. So let's say we're starting from here. It's just going to be like this. Right. It's curved as well since the lemon is pretty round. So like it's really hard. I'm just like trying to make. We have this part that's really dark since it's blocked by the apple. We also have this part that's pretty dark since it's touching the grapes, and the grapes. And you want to like cover both sides so you can like move your hand, get that general shape. Again, you want to keep that gradient, making sure that it doesn't look like a harsh transition. Do this. You even like do this as well. You can obviously after this, you can use your Q-tip again. You can go over it. And then you go over it with your pencil again. You see it. And this part should be the darkest part, and you see that it's no longer, you want to keep fixing it. You can also go over lines because there's a shadow here. So shadow part's the darkest part. You gotta keep in mind that this part has to be the lightest part of the lemon. Obviously, you can continue finishing. Once you're all done, you can use your eraser if you feel like the highlight part is not, light enough. So let's say with the apple, you think it's not light enough, so you use your eraser. Make a part, and then one here, and then your pear, you can do this. Your lemon, you can do this. And then you can use your pencil. I like this pencil. You can go over it. Just some lines. You don't want to cover the whole thing, but you don't want it to make it look like just like a white blob. If y'all want, this is a Kimberly pencil that's like the lead is 2H. We can teach like what different lead mean, but like this one, you have much like a better control of your pencil, and the lines will be like smaller and lighter. Use this, to add a little bit more contour lines to your apple. And do this for outlines. You the same for this. The same for the pear. You don't want to cover the whole spot, but like the general area, maybe like some part of your highlight, just to make it like a smoother transition, or just like prevent this one white blob. And we can fix this later. We just have like the general shade. Now onto the grapes. Grapes are obviously, if you have the time, you can do one individual grape and like do the shading there. But for now, let's just do like a general shading of like the whole area of grape. So just want to shade it light gray. That'll be easier for us to work with. Yeah, if you feel like you don't have enough, you can do that. So everyone should just be shading the grape. I'm sorry, someone's phone is ringing. Let me just get that. Okay, never mind. Okay. So we have the shapes or the shading of the grapes. You can obviously go use your pencil, outline the shapes of the grape again. Not to be perfect circles, and the ovals, different shapes. Really shows, like dynamic part of the grapes. Or you want the grapes to look more dynamic, not just like the same shape. Okay, so we have shapes with the grapes. You see, obviously, the light is hitting this side. So this side, so it means that the left part of the grape will obviously be darker. So you can like start shading. It'll be very similar to like the shading of like the circles. The left side's gonna be darker, and then the right side is gonna be lighter. You can go into more detail later, but it's basically how you, like the shading of these grapes, basically how you shade kind of like a sphere. So what we taught you in the first and second class. Obviously, you can't do this here, but you can add its own, like you can add a stem to, like, I guess, your grapes if you want. I don't know if that's clear in camera. You know, add a stem to your grapes. And then, you know, shape this part of the grape. Just keep shading, keep making that gradient. Let's continue. You also want to consider, let's say like a fruit is blocking the grape. So it means the part that is like touching or like touching the fruit, or like the part that's being blocked by fruit, that's part it's going to be darker. So let's see for this grape, so we have the bottom part where the grape is touching the fruit, that part of the grape is going to be darker. And it's going to also reflect the fruit as well. You can continue to use your eraser if you want to, like, you want to see the highlights of the grape. You can dab some part of the grape. If you feel like there's not enough grapes, you can just add more grapes. And it doesn't have to be like the same amount of grapes in the photo, just like the general shape or just where the grapes are, the area. Unless it's the stem, this time. And lastly, it's like you can obviously do touch-ups on the fruits, but you want to also consider the shadow. So you see the shadows here, shadow here, shadow here. You can even shade the backdrop, but let's just look at the shadow. So the shadow, so the shadow that is like right, the closest to the fruit or the object is going to be the darkest. So that area is going to be the darkest. Right here in apple, this area that's like directly touching is going to be the darkest. Oops, sorry. Okay. This part area is going to be the darkest, and you want to just do the bottom of the apple. So a lot of you like do the whole bottom of the apple, like do this whole thing. It's obviously not correct, because when the light hits, this part is going to be light, so there's going to be light down here as well. It's just a shadow that's like right here. So this is, you just want to follow the reference photo. And after this darkest part, you can just be like a, you know, this gray shading. And again, for the pear, even though it's like not obvious here, you want to do the darkest part right underneath the pear. And it should go from dark to what's called like light, the lighter gray. So here it should be darkest because it's touching the actual fruit. And your shadow should almost be darker than the darkest part of the fruit. So if it isn't, you obviously want to change that by either darkening it or lightening that part of the fruit. All right, let's say, so for the shadow, obviously you want this to be darkest part. The darkest over here. And if you think it's too dark and you start seeing like the outline of your shape disappear, you know, use a pencil and go over it. And obviously in the picture you see that like this part is also like a lighter gray as well, so you can take into account of that and use shaded a lighter gray. Let's get the surrounding areas lighter gray. There's going to be some little bit of shadow right here where the grapes are, so I'm going to consider that. And there's a little shadow right here, so you want to also do this a little bit gray. Let's say you see the shadow, you obviously fix it up. You can always get on your free time, and then let's say you think the shape looks a little weird, like the shape of the apple looks weird, so you can always just extend, like make corrections to the apple. And you can just shade it again, like the same method we did. Use your Q-tip or your tissue. Actually, that part looks a little bit darker, so you want to make this dark, or make this darker, or use your eraser to erase that part. Again, like this looks like it's the outline is almost disappearing, so you want to use your pencil, go over it. Yeah, so go over it. Obviously, more needs to be done to make the shape more realistic, with more shading, contour lines, different directions. But I think the introduction or the basic should be good. I think here's a piece I did earlier today that like it's kind of finished, but it's so this shows like the idea of like different contour lines in different directions. So obviously you can see this, I put this on purpose, like a rough contour line going like this, but other contour lines going like this way. And obviously for the pier as well, contour lines like this, but also you see here contour lines going this way. And actually if you shade your fruit or object in like kind of different directions, it looks more dynamic, it looks more realistic, it looks like there's depth to your object. And obviously you see the eraser to make the highlights. Obviously the gray. This isn't finished. Sorry, the highlights. Obviously the grapes, and so this isn't finished, but it's kind of like this idea of like using different lines to make your shapes more realistic. I think that's it for today. If you can say if you have more questions, you can ask Andrea. This video will be recorded, so if you want to repeat anything, you can watch the video.
Make sure to turn in your homework on Google Classroom, and we'll share a picture of the reference photo again, and also Stephy's final piece on Google Classroom. So, yep. If you have any questions, let us know now. If not, you're welcome to leave. Bye, everyone.